Friends, we have Professor R.K. Gupta with us. He is a professor in the Department of Physics, Pilani campus. His research focus is in the field of surface plasmon resonance and applications, and ultra-thin films of organic and other nanomaterials and sensors. He has executed several sponsored projects. He has published more than 50 research articles and several book chapters in International Journal of Repute. One of his Indian patent is in progress. He has sent only the short biography. I'm sure that he has actually condensed it. And with this, I invite Professor R.K. Gupta for his lecture. Sir, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Patti. A very good afternoon to everybody. Fine. So, I'm going to talk on this particular topic, surface plasmon resonance, sensing and beyond. So, this is a very important and very simple optical phenomena. I think many of you are aware, and usually we don't teach this particular phenomena in MSc, but those who are MSc students, they can able to appreciate this when I speak, on this particular topic. So widely it is used for sensing, but I'm going to talk something which will be sensing and then beyond sensing. A very brief about from which place I belong to. So you can see that this is the topic that I'm going to speak. So this is the place where I belong to. This is Delhi, and if you go towards Rajasthan, this is the place where I belong to. It is at the border of Haryana and Rajasthan. So 200 kilometers from Delhi, and similarly 200 kilometers from Jaipur. All right, so this is the aerial view of our campus, Pilani campus. And so here we are having underground classrooms, and there's a student hostel, and this is the administrative building. We have academic building here, and this is the academic building. All right, so the theme of this colloquium is light matter interaction at nanoscale. And so here we are going to discuss, how the light is getting interacted with the material, and what property we can able to probe using the light. I think in course of time, I think many of you have heard of this, that light can be used to excite the molecules or atoms, and then certain physical phenomena is happening, and then we are measuring those phenomena, and then we are finding out the insight of that particular system. Surface plasmon resonance. This optical phenomena is also kind of interaction of light with the material, but a little different way. So SPR is actually a classical optical phenomena. So so we will. I will try to explain this in a very layman language. I think things will be more clearer in later part of my talk. So it's a classical optical phenomena which can be explained using the simple concept of reflection, polarization of light, and things like that, and of course the refractive index of the material which we are going to use here. So briefly again, I'm going to talk something about the total internal reflection, because this is required when we want to excite this surface plasmon resonance in the material. I'll briefly talk about the evanescent wave and the tunneling of the light. So when we are talking about the total internal reflection, TIR, then normally what we have idea in our mind that there will be a interface, low density interface and the high density interface, high density medium. So light is traveling from low density medium, and then it is getting reflected into the high density medium, and then so N2 is of course greater than N1, and so this is theta I, this is theta R, whatever it is. So we increase the angle of incidence here, and then we can able to get the critical angle. Fine. So the critical angle at which we will not get the refracted light, but the light will be totally internally reflected. So we'll be having the light which is totally internally reflected into the denser medium. Okay, so this is the interface of N1 and N2 medium, and light is getting totally reflected. So if we measure the reflection coefficient for either the P polarization or S polarization, so in any case you are going to get the reflectivity is equal to 1. So there is no loss of any energy into the second medium, into this medium. But if you work out a little bit, then you will see that there is a evanescent wave which is going to present at the interface, which is going to be into the second medium, that in the medium N1. And I think it's a very simple or very largely studied thing that the evanescent wave which is created after this total internal reflection, that is, it is a, so if this is, if I draw the axis like this, so this is z axis and this is x and this is y, then we have the expression for this evanescent wave. This is of the, this is e to the power minus something kappa z, so exponentially decaying along the z direction, and then we have e to the power so we have a wave which is going along, okay, along the x direction also. Okay, so we have a wave which is parallel to the interface, but the wave is decaying along the z direction, and there is no transfer of energy into the medium one, into this medium. So this is the evanescent wave, and then again, if you see the average value of this Poynting vector, then so this is, again, this is something like e to the power minus kappa z, and then which is again along the x direction. So there is, it is directed along the x direction. Fine. Okay, so we have the evanescent wave. Now let me come to my slide. Yeah. So before going to this tunneling, let me just explain to you about this the concept of tunneling of light. So here we can see that the light is getting transversed through this prism. So you can see that the light is traveling, it is incident at this phase, and then it is getting totally internally reflected over here. Totally internally reflected over here. So now what one can do is that one can bring a similar prism of the similar material, and bring it very close to this at the plane where we are having this evanescent wave. Okay, so bring it close, and if it is close enough, then the light will tunnel, the evanescent wave, it will tunnel through this barrier, and it will go to the second prism. So you can see that the light is getting tunneled at the point of, at this point where we are having the evanescent wave, and then it travels to the another medium here. Okay, this follow the classical, the quantum mechanical. So if you work out the quantum mechanical problem for a particle which is going through a barrier, and so here also it follows the same thing. So you are having a barrier which is of of different material, different refractive index at the interface of this prism. Okay, so you can see the multiple total internal reflection you can see in this particular wave graph, and so this total internal reflection is used widely for the transmission of data through optical fiber and things like that. Will not go in detail into all these things, but what is interesting to know about this tunneling of light, from this. So again, simple geometry over here. So we are having medium 1, and this is the medium NT. Ni is the refractive index. Light is getting incident and then reflected, transmitted. Then this is the barrier. This is the gap, air gap, or the gap of any other medium which is there between the two prisms. So two prism, when we are talking about this experimental setup. So we are having one prism through which light is getting totally internally reflected over here, and then there is a detector to record the reflected intensity here. So this D has D is the separation between the two prisms, and this is the medium, the refractive index of this medium. Okay, so now if the D is adjusted in such a manner, so adjusted meaning that you are changing the barrier height here. Okay, so if you change the barrier height at one particular moment, the light will start tunnel through, from this to the second medium, and this is what it has been plotted here. So you can see that there is a separation. So this D is actually X, we mentioned here X here, and this is the reflected, this is the intensity which is collected through this medium. So this is the detector measurement, this detector measurement from this detector. Fine, and two straight line. Of course, this is the log scale here. This has been shown for two different angle of incidence. So theta is 63 and 55, and we can see that it follows exponentially. So exponential decay of, as you increase the separation between the two prism, we are going to have this kind of trend. Okay, fine. So this experiment was done using a microwave, and the refractive index of this microwave, the wavelength of this microwave was 2.9 centimeter. Okay, so it was easy to appreciate, and we can able to read all this length scale in terms of millimeter or centimeter or so. Okay, for more detail you can see this reference. Again, so the transmission, we can write this in this expression, and then, so what is important to note over here is that this T, the transmitted light, this is dependent on H. H and D is again the separation. So H is related to this, which is again is dependent on the refractive index of the medium between the gap and the wavelength of the light used here. Okay, so if we can able to tune this, we can able to tune the intensity of the tunnel light. Fine. So this is dependent on H and D, and this kind of tunneling of light, they say that this is also known as the frustrated total reflection. Okay, this is the frustrated total reflection. So in that experiment, what they have done, they have taken this M to be 1.26 for that particular wavelength, and then they have performed the experiment and simulated the curve, and they got a good equivalence of both the experimental and theoretical curve. Okay, the tunneling of light can be used in some of the application like optical modulator, beam splitter, and filter. So optical modulator, very simple to understand, like you can able to change the separation between the two prism, okay, and then you can able to modulate the intensity, right? So if you put it on some actuator or something, then you can able to modulate the gap, and you can able to precisely tune the intensity according to your wish. So this is some of the example of this tunneling of light phenomena. Okay. All right. So for the completion's sake, I took this topic also, since we are talking about the reflection of electromagnetic wave. I think all of us are aware of what is called the Brewster angle. So this Brewster angle concept, we can use it for microscopic purpose. So we can able to image something which I think normally we are not aware of, some system. I'm going to give you a few idea about that which system I'm going to talk about. But of course, the Brewster angle concept can be used for imaging. Okay, how it is, I'll tell you now. So this is very popular curve, very well we are aware of this thing. So reflection coefficient, Fresnel reflection coefficient for P polarization parallel to the plane of incidence, and S polarization perpendicular to the plane of incidence. Fine. So if you see the reflectivity curve as a function of angle of incidence, so we can see that this for P polarization, the intensity goes to 0 at one particular angle. Okay, so this is the Brewster angle, and mathematically we can work out and we can say that this is equal to tan theta is equal to the refractive index of that medium. Okay, n2 by n1 if n is the tensor medium. All right. So this is very unique to that particular interface. When we are talking about the light is getting reflected from glass air interface or water air interface, this angle is unique to that particular interface. Okay, fine. All right. So this is the Brewster angle. So one state of polarization, that is the P polarization of light, this is going to vanish at the Brewster angle. But other state of polarization, S polarization, this is not vanishing. So let us come to this view graph now. We can see that we are sending the unpolarized light here. Okay, at the Brewster angle for this interface, we are having an interface consists of this medium, this and air, and if the angle of incidence is the Brewster angle for this interface, then the P polarization, this is going to vanish in the reflected light. So reflected light doesn't have the P polarization; it is only having the S polarization of the light. Okay. Now let me perform an experiment where I send only the P polarization of light at the Brewster angle for a chosen interface. Chosen interface meaning it may be either glass air or water air. Okay. So theta B, the Brewster angle for that interface is defined. I know at what angle I have to send the light to incident onto that medium, and then put the detector at the reflected to collect the reflected light. So when we send the p-polarized light at the Brewster angle, we'll get zero intensity recorded by the detector. Fine. Now somehow if I change the interface in the real time, then in that case, the Brewster angle condition is going to violate and we'll get some reflectivity. And that reflectivity, that light will integrate to image the surface, image the surface. So this imaging, it's called the Brewster angle microscopy, and popularly we use this kind of imaging for imaging a thin film, a monolayer of molecules which is floating onto the surface of water. I'll come to this now. So you can see that this is what I said here, Brewster angle microscope. So we have a source here, unpolarized source of light. We put a polarizer as the reflected beam here, and the p-polarization, the state of p-polarization is going to vanish because we are sending at the Brewster angle. And we put a polarizer over here which crosses this, we get zero intensity here. Now, if we put some molecule onto the surface of water which is going to float on the water surface itself, then it is going to change the refractive index at this interface, locally at this particular point. Fine. So the CCD camera, the imaging device, it is going to record some of the intensity which I will record, which I will integrate, and then I can able to get the image of that particular material, that particular film, which is floating on the surface of water. So this is the whole concept of Brewster angle microscopy. I'll show you some of the example here. So you can see that a single layer of molecule which is floating at the interface, water-air interface. Okay, a single layer of molecule, and a stable layer of molecule at the air-water interface. This can be treated as a two-dimensional system. Little detail I'm going to take the later part of my talk. So at this moment, just we try to keep in mind that a single layer of molecule which is floating on the water, and this is two-dimensional system, and they are exhibiting different kind of phases at the air-water interface. So how do we image this a single layer of molecule? When I'm talking about a single layer of molecule, the thickness of the film is about 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, things like that. So 2 nanometer thin film, using the very simple classical the classical concept of optics, that Brewster angle, we can able to image it. So you can see that the images, this is a single layer of molecule. So this is the gas phase, which is dark water, and this is where the film is. So depending on the morphology, depending on the texture, we can able to predict the different kind of phases, whether it is a condensed phase, whether this is a liquid-like phase, or any other kind of phase which is being there for this two-dimensional system. Sometimes we see some kind of texture like this. Now, let us keep in mind that we are collecting the polarized lights. So these are, this texture, these stripes, this pattern, this arises because of the tilt of the molecule, because of the anisotropy in the refractive index in the monolayer. Okay, fine. Again, homogeneous structure, and then some high density. So different kind of thing we can see here. So this was a very interesting work which we have published long back, and we can see that the similar stripe pattern we can see over here. So these stripes, this stripe appear because of the collective precession of molecule at the air-water interface. So we have the molecule, and they're collectively precessing over the water surface. Okay, and this is similar to that of the molecular motor, which is driven by the evaporation of water from the bulk water to the air medium. Okay, so higher the evaporation rate, the higher the precession of this molecule, and it was spatio-temporal. So it was evolving with time. So you can see that we have taken a two different snapshots. At one time, we are having this vortices, one state and then another state. So we calculated what is the rate of rotation of these vortices, which is related to the rotation of these molecules, on the water surface. And then we change the relative humidity. So when we are changing the relative humidity, it means that we are changing, the rate of evaporation of water, which is used for making the molecule to propel onto the water surface. So it behaves very, systematically. And when the humidity is very high, the rate of evaporation is low, and the precession of or the rotation of these vortices are very small. So this was very interesting work that we have published long back. Okay, so now let us come to this surface plasmon resonance phenomena. Okay, so it is an optical phenomena, and now we can try to understand this from this view graph. So we have an interface again, a metal and dielectric. Dielectric can be air, and then the metal. So when we are talking about the metal, we are having a lot of free charge, free surface charge, and this free surface charge can be made to oscillate in a quantized manner. And if you can do so, then we can have this electromagnetic wave, which is planar to the surface and which will decay exponentially along the z direction, as it has been mentioned over here. So this is the field due to the surface plasmon wave, in the air medium or in the dielectric medium. Okay. So now the question is that how do we make this electron, this free charge, to oscillate in a quantized manner? We can take the help of the electromagnetic wave. So electromagnetic wave, we take the electromagnetic wave. We can see here that, so again, this is the metal and this is the dielectric. Dielectric can be air or any other medium. So if you allow the electromagnetic wave to incident at one particular angle, of course, this angle has to be greater than the total internal reflection. And then, so it is going to create some kind of surface polaritones. And we are having this surface plasmon polaritones. It is going to excite onto the metallic surface at metal dielectric interface. Fine. Then we have to establish the resonance. In order to have the appreciable change in the phenomena, we have to establish, the resonance where we can able to perform some measurement. Okay. So how to excite the surface plasmon polaritones? So this is the dispersion curve. We can see that angular frequency versus wave vector, and we can see that several curves over here. So this curve, this is, for the surface plasmon wave. This is the dispersion curve for the surface plasmon wave, and this is for the electromagnetic wave in vacuum. Okay, when refractive index is equal to 1. Okay, so if I search for a solution, non-zero solution for this, then we are having will not get any non-zero solution for this. So in order to have a finite solution, so what we have to do is that we have to change the slope of this one. So how do we change the slope of this curve? We can increase the refractive index of the medium, and then at one particular point we are going to have intersection of these two curves. So this intersection, this is where the resonance is going to happen. And when it happens, then the wave vector of the incident wave, the component of the wave vector of the incident wave, will be matched with that of the surface plasmon wave. And at that moment of time, there is a transfer of energy from the electromagnetic wave to the surface plasmon wave, and there is a dip in the reflectivity. There is a dip in the intensity of the reflected wave. So how do we achieve this? Okay. So one way is that we cannot be able to excite the surface plasmon, or we cannot be able to see the surface plasmon resonance phenomena in the air medium. We need some kind of coupling medium. And coupling, which means that we need either a prism or any other water or any other medium in order to have the resonance phenomenon. Okay. Again, a little bit of mathematics here. Surface plasmon resonance. So we can see that the incident beam is falling at an angle of theta I, and then the x component of this kx, the wave vector, we can see that this is 2 pi by lambda. This is the refractive index of the coupling medium. We discussed that why the coupling medium is important. So light is traveling through a coupling medium, N prism, and this is the angle of incidence. The surface plasmon wave, the wave vector for the surface plasmon wave is related to the epsilon 1 and epsilon 2, which can be related to the refractive index of the prism and the metal. So here we are going to see the phenomena at the metal and dielectric interface. So these are the refractive index of the metal and the dielectric. Fine. So at resonance, this kx is equal to kp. So these two can be related, and we can see that when these two are related, then if we change something in the refractive index of the dielectric medium, then accordingly this has to be changed, right? So kx need to be changed accordingly in order to establish the resonance. And how do we change that? There are two ways we can change it. One is that either we change theta I, that is the angle of incidence, in order to establish the resonance for the new interface, which is achieved by the change of this refractive index of the dielectric medium. Okay, this is one way. Another way is that if theta is constant, then we can change the wavelength of the light. Okay, so you change the wavelength of the light till you get this Kx is equal to Kp, and then resonance is established, and you can see the dip in the reflected intensity. So there are two mode of operation or two mode of observing the SPR phenomena here. Okay, fine. So now how can we use this SPR for surface plasmon resonance for sensing application? So we can see that this is the prism here, and refractive index greater than 1, then we are having the gold layer. So we need to excite the surface plasmon polariton at the metal and dielectric interface. So this is the dielectric medium and this is the metal. We allow the light to pass through here. There will be evanescent wave which is going to couple with the gold layer, and it is going to excite the surface plasmon polariton here. Now how to establish the resonance? We change the angle of incidence, or we change the wavelength, and then we see that which particular theta, which particular angle of incidence is responsible for the minimum intensity, reflected intensity, or second case, which particular wavelength is missing in the spectrum. These two modes. Fine. Now, how can we use this SPR for sensing application? So we can see that most of the sensing it works in the principle of lock and key. So you have some lock and which this lock can be opened through its unique key, right? So similar phenomena is used for in most of the sensing applications. So what one can do is that, or generally people do is that, they search for one particular kind of biomarker or any kind of marker which is going to attract its own corresponding analyte. One such example is that a pair of antibody antigen pair. So you make a thin film of this antibody, and then you dispense a lot of other things, including the antigen which is going to get bind to the surface. Fine. So if it binds its corresponding antigen, it is going to change the dielectric permittivity of the interface, refractive index of this interface, and then it is going to change the resonance condition, which we can able to measure precisely. So here we have the advantage of using SPR for sensing applications. All right, so that is the concept is generally used for most of the sensing applications. So you have a specific surface, you have a thin film which is going to attract a specific analyte to it, and it is going to give you the sensing response for that particular sensor. Okay, and so here, what is the advantage that's what I was telling you here. The advantage of SPR for sensing application. Here, in most of the biosensors, generally what they do is that they put some kind of tag, some kind of fluorescence tag or any kind of biomarker, and when this kind of interaction happens, then they try so those dye molecule, it will give you some kind of radiation, and then you collect those radiation. So the sensitivity wise, those kind of biosensors which are based on dye kind of thing or label kind of thing, those are poor as compared to this SPR, because it does not require any kind of labeling, any kind of dye molecule over here. First thing. Okay. And second thing is that when we are inserting some kind of foreign particle into the medium for measurement, it is going to interact in its own way with the system. Okay, so that is also not justifiable in most of the sensing applications. But here in case of SPR, it is all the game of the measurement of change in refractive index. So if few molecules which is going to adsorb to this biospecific surface, it is going to change the resonance condition, and how precisely you can able to measure this resonance condition. That is what important over here. Okay, so I need to measure refractive index change very precisely and to a very high resolution. So that is what this SPR, it has an advantage over the traditional or the conventional biosensors or any kind of chemical sensors. Okay, so here we don't need any kind of labeling. It's a label-free measurement. So we can see that we need to, functionalize the surface of the gold with a specific molecule, and when it is functionalization is done, then automatically it is going to interact with its own corresponding analytes in the presence of any other thing. Okay, so we'll discuss these things, some more of these things later on. Okay, how much time? Yeah, a lot of time is there. So let us discuss a little bit of instrumentation also. So what we have learned till now, that we have to send the angle, we have to send the electromagnetic wave at an angle greater than total internal reflection, and the evanescent wave that is going to couple with the metal layer, and it is going to excite surface plasmon polaritones, we can establish the surface plasmon resonance by changing the angle of incidence. So angle of incidence or change the wavelength. Fine. So this is the experimental setup or schematic of this thing. So we can see that there is a prism over here, and then there is a gold film. We have taken the gold film in our measurement because this is inert to any other thing. It does not get oxidized fast, and it can be reused several times. So all this practical reason we have used this gold film. Fine. And then we put a detector to measure the reflected intensity. So now if you change the angle of incidence and measure the reflected intensity as a function of angle of incidence at resonance, you are going to have the minimum intensity. Fine. So wavelength interrogation, where we are keeping the angle of incidence fixed and changing the wavelength. So you send a polychromatic light and then see in the spectrum that which particular wavelength is missing, and then you work out using some formula, and then you can able to get that what is the change in the refractive index which has happened over here or things like that. Angular interrogation, this is very high resolution we can able to get, and then high sensitivity. So wavelength is fixed in angular interrogation. You can take laser, a very stable laser, stable in the sense that intensity is stable, frequency is stable, and then you change the angle of incidence and then measure the reflected intensity. So this is very high resolution and high sensitivity. Okay, so this is the spectra that we get. So this is for the angular interrogation. We can see that the angle of incidence, the resonance angle is going to shift because of the change of the refractive index at the interface because of some kind of interaction, some kind of adsorption to the gold surface. Okay, so θ1 change to θ2, and this is perfectly governed. This particular phenomena can be, you can able to apply this Fresnel reflection for completely simulating this curve. So if you know the Fresnel reflection, if theoretically if you can work out, then you can able to know that what is the change in the refractive index by noting that where the resonance is going to happen, what is the resonance angle. Okay, I have some slide related to that theoretical part. And here this is the wavelength interrogation, the wavelength change. So we can see that the x-axis is wavelength, and if any adsorption is happening, any change in refractive index is happening, the wavelength will shift. So these are the essential component. If you are planning to build the equipment, these are the essential component. Like you need a source of light. It should be, if it is angular interrogation, then it should be stable with respect to the wavelength, with respect to the intensity, detector, coupling prism, metal film, 50 nanometer gold film. So if the thickness is more or smaller than this, then SPR phenomena does not stop. If it is more, then the evanescent wave, this is going to decay into the medium, and we cannot be able to reach to the surface, and we cannot be able to excite the surface plasmon polaritones there. And goniometric arrangement. Some of the schematic for the angular interrogation SPR technique. So there are two modes. One is that auto configuration, another is Keshman configuration. So you can see that there is a prism here, evanescent wave. It needs to interact with your metal layer, and surface plasmon polaritones can be excited here. And there is an air gap here. But this is not very popular because I don't have a degree of freedom of fiddling with, with this interface. Because if you are planning to design for some sensor or something like that, I need to functionalize the surface of the gold, and we don't have space over here to dispense the material. Okay, so though for fundamental point of view this is fine, but practical point of view this is not very popular. So the one which is very popular and widely used for the sensing application or any other kind of application is this one. And we have built the one equipment, SPR equipment, based on this concept, based on this configuration, Keshman configuration. So you can see that metal is in contact with the medium, with the coupling medium prism over here, and if the thickness is in the range of 45 to 55 nanometer, then we can able to have surface plasmon polariton. We can able to establish the resonance by changing the angle of incidence, and then we can observe the phenomena. So we have, as I told you, that we have built this equipment in our laboratory with the help of DST, and this is a very small portable equipment, and it can be installed anywhere. We have taken this instrument to Bangalore, Raman Research Institute. We have demonstrated to the scientists over there, and we got a very good feedback from them. And then in several other places we have demonstrated the equipment. So it's a very small portable. It can be installed anywhere with a laptop, and one plug or few plugs. That's it. So you can see that we have used a unique concept over here in order to obtain the spectra, where x-axis is the angle of incidence, y-axis is the reflectivity. We have used a unique concept over here. This is a novel one. This was a novel one, and we have filed a patent on this particular concept. So we changed the angle of incidence, not by goniometric arrangement, by what is called, the optomechanical scanning mechanism. So what we are doing is here is that we are translating this assembly of this prism and the gold film in a vertical direction, and accordingly we are adjusting this one. Okay, so the entire spectra is collected through this novel mechanism, and this is how the schematic of our instrument is there. So we have a laser here, and then we have a scanning mirror, and then it is directed to the prism, and the gold film over here, this is mounted on a translucent strip, vertical translucent strip, and then there is a detector over here. Everything is computer controlled. So this is the equipment. It's a very small, you can see that, and it's working perfectly fine. We are producing a lot of paper using this equipment. Okay. Some of the feature of this equipment, that angular resolution, it is modular actually, angular resolution. So we are using the piezo motor, so you can change at what rate you can able to scan. Okay, so 20 micrometer, 20 micro degree to 0.2 degree. So depending on the situation, you can change this thing. So this is a very unique, which is not usually available in the commercial SPR instrument. Another unique feature is that most of the commercial equipment, they are having a very small range, 10 degree or 15 degree, not more than that. But here we can able to scan from 20 degree to 85 degree. So we have a complete range starting from if you want to design a sensor, gas sensor in the air environment, or a biosensors in the water environment, the same instrument can be used for both of them. We are working further development of this equipment, like SPR imaging, wavelength scan, and electrochemical SPR of this one. We are working on a very small handheld SPR system, and this is just in the development stage. Fine. So I told you that we can able to have a very large range of scanning. So so you can see that the one spectra which has taken for the air medium, and after that we have put a drop of water onto the surface of gold, and then we continued scanning, and we got the spectra for the water medium. So gold water medium. All right. So refractive index is getting changed. Here it is equal to 1, and here it is equal to 1.33. Okay. So a very wide range of refractive index change we can able to measure using this instrument. All right. So the classical theory for modeling the reflectivity from this instrument. So you consider the stack of layers, and then you work out for the reflectivity from each of the layer, and then write a very small code, and then you can able to generate the spectra for the the given refractive index of the interfaces, and the wavelength of the light used, or things like that, and the thickness of the medium. So all right, so all these input parameter you give, and you can able to generate the spectra. It's a very standard thing. Fine. So SPR, I told you that this is used for sensing application, and this is again a view graph. So you can see that there is a flow cell over here, liquid medium, and through flow cell you dispense the analyte, and your surface is made specific for attracting that analyte. And then if any change is happening, then you record it and then train the sensor and get the result. Okay. So again, angular interrogation, and then so this is a kinetic curve. X-axis is time. So how the response getting changed with time. You can see this in view graph. So we have the surface which is going to give us the baseline, and the moment you dispense the material, your analyte is going to bind, and then we are going to have the association curve, then dissociation curve, and all sorts of all kinetic trend can be measured, and the rate of association, rate of dissociation, all those things can be measured using this equipment. Fine. So this SPR can be used very widely for various applications: cell investigation, protein interaction, DNA aptamer, drug target, in various fields as well. So wherever, if you want to probe any kind of interaction, molecular interaction, the molecular interaction can happen in, not only for sensors, for various other things. Like if you want to test your drug, so you create the environment onto the surface of gold, and then you dispense the drug and see whether it is binding or not. Or if it is binding, then what is the response? At what rate it is binding, at what rate it is dissolving, and things like that. You can able to, not only see in case of pharma industry, but you can make the surface. You can put some live system. There are some report where they have put some kind of cell onto the surface of the gold, and simultaneously they measure the motility of those cell under the exposure of different kind of drugs. So those kind of measurement also is possible using this instrument. So it's a very largely used instrument in several fields, physics, chemistry, biology, pharmacy, and various other places. Okay, some of the application I have shown here. This is the biomedical application, and I have put only few. There are plenty, and why I have put few here is that these are some of the advanced version of SPR, surface plasmon resonance technique. So you can see that SPRI or eSPR. What it means? It means that SPR imaging or eSPR is electrochemical SPR. So these are the latest development, or a very powerful development of this surface plasmon resonance phenomenon. Fine. So in surface plasmon resonance imaging, generally what they do is that they create n number of spots. So this is like the cells of biosystem, where you put different kind of material, and then you can able to monitor different response for different material at with time. So similar thing can be done over here by using this SPR imaging or electrochemical SPR. Okay, so all these things are the latest development, and they can be used for biomedical application like rheumatoid arthritis, kidney diseases, God knows, all sorts of things. Fine. So being a physicist, we are interested in, apart from all those biomedical applications, sensing applications, some physics related stuff also we are also interested. Now here in this view graph, what you see is that this is again an organic molecule, and it is called the triphenylene based viscotic liquid crystal. Liquid crystal, when we are talking about the liquid crystal, we are going to have some kind of mesophases between crystalline and isotropic liquid phase. So these are generally anisotropic in shape. You can see that this is a disc-like shape. Fine. Similarly, there are some of the liquid crystal, classical liquid crystal, which are rod shape. So the shape anisotropy is there. And if you try to assemble this shape anisotropic material as a function of temperature, if you try to see that, then they show some kind of ordering into this before going to the isotropic liquid phase. So there are, in some phase, like pneumatic phase, they will be aligned in one particular direction. Okay, so there is some kind of orientational ordering into the system. If you reduce the temperature, then it goes from that pneumatic phase to smectic phase, layer-like phase. You are having the layers, one directional, layered structure, and two-dimensional liquid-like structure. Fine. So there are several phases. I'll not go very detailed into this. This is one class of liquid crystal molecule, shape anisotropic, disc-like. And if you try to assemble them, fine. Assembling meaning we are changing the temperature, from isotropic phase to the liquid crystalline phase to isotropic liquid by heating. Okay. Then some phase, these molecules can stack on one above another because of this shape of this molecule or molecular interaction. So there are a lot of pi electrons over here. Okay, so there are strong pi-pi interaction between the molecules, and they prefer to align in one particular direction. So there is, the molecules which are aligned in this, and we are having one-dimensional wire like this. And it's a semiconducting material, because if you measure, the semiconducting properties, it is going to give you the properties accordingly. So this column, they can arrange in a hexagonal manner or many other manners. So depending on the situation, depending on the phase, one can classify the different phases of this disc-like molecule. We are not interested in the bulk property, but we are interested in some morphological orientation, some supramolecular assembly of this molecule. So these are, again, as I told you, that these are some of the common mesophases of discotic liquid crystal. You can see that the disk plane is more or less aligned in one particular direction. This is the director. So this is the pneumatic phase, holistic phase, and things like that. So your discs are aligned. Okay, your discs are aligned, and it is going to be, you can treat them as a tube of this organic molecule, a tube of this organic molecule, and several such tubes are here. Okay, where do we find application? Just like in sensors, organic field effect transistor, photovoltaic solar cell, organic LED. Okay, now what we have done is that we have facilitated some kind of self-assembly of this discordant molecule. So we are aware that, okay, there are strong pi-pi interaction between these disc-like molecule, and they can facilitate, they can form a column of this molecule. So can we make a fiber of this molecule? Okay, so, and how we can do that? Not by heating, by some other process. So what we have done is that we have dissolved this in some chloroform. So chloroform, it completely dissolved, and then we put ethanol. So there is a interface over here of highly polar and non-polar liquid, and at the interface we are going to have these fibers. So you can see that there is, so these are the fibers. These are the fibers of this discordic molecules, and we have a bunch of those fibers. What is the nanometer length scale arrangement of this fiber? Let us see that. So we have performed the TEM, transmission electron scanning electron microscope, and we can see that this is the fiber. So there is some kind of onion, like, all of us are aware of spring onion. So spring onion, this is a coaxially assembly of this, material. So this is one such flat portion of this fiber, and then those are all wound together to give this onion, like spring onion like morphology. Right? Okay. Now, what we have done is that then purposefully we have, so in this, so we have a flat ribbon like texture here. We have a flat ribbon like texture over here, and what we have done, we have incorporated some kind of impurity into this. So if you incorporate some impurity, then this flat ribbon, they twist. So this is the twisting of this flat ribbon. So this impurity, when we are purposefully incorporating it, it means that we are incorporating some kind of defect into the medium, some disclination, dislocation defect into the medium, and that leads to the twisting of this fiber. Okay, so this is, you can see that there is some nanoparticle, silver nanoparticle over here, and it introduces some kind of disclination, dislocation defect into the assembly of this, and it gives rise to the twisting of this fiber. So, we get the chiral structure with non-chiral dopant. So the dopant was silver nanoparticle, and we can see that the same fiber, one side it is following the left-handed, another side it is following the right-handed. So this is the proof that we are having this chiral structure with non-chiral dopant. Otherwise, it will follow the same chirality of the dopant. Okay, so we have performed some sensing application of this fiber, and we get a very good response of this. Since we have a very less time, I'll just go into the essential part of this one. So we can see that the response of this. So how it is going to sense acetone and ethanol, this assembly, this supramolecular assembly. Now we have seen that the molecule has having the aliphatic chain at the periphery, right? And those molecules are forming the ribbon. So we have a lot of aliphatic chain at the periphery, right? And when it is exposed to acetone and ethanol, the aliphatic chain at the periphery, that is going to respond largely because of the acetone and ethanol, and it changes the refractive index locally at the point of probe using this SPR. Okay, so we get the response accordingly. So if it twists large, if your ribbon twists large, the surface area is large, which means that the response for those kind of interaction, it is going to enhance with the twisting of this nano ribbon. Okay, fine. So this is one. Then in another experiment, what we have done is that we have made a very ultra sensitive layered structure. So what we have done is that we have functionalized the gold surface or the SPR chip with the self-assembled monolayer of a molecule which is anchored very rigidly to the gold surface. So it is very difficult to change the aliphatic chain of this self-assembled monolayer, okay, because it is rigidly fixed to the gold surface. Then what we have done is that we have deposited a single layer of a liquid crystal molecule, and then so when the single layer of liquid crystal molecule is deposited onto this self-assembled monolayer, this SAM, this is going to provide a soft cushion for this HCG molecule, liquid system molecule, to precess, to change the morphology, to change the orientation. Fine. So it is going to be very sensitive. We have created a very sensitive layer, but sensitive to what extent? Okay. So what we have done is that we have used another second laser here. So this is the second laser. This is our SPR assembly. And then what we have done is that we have shined a laser from the top at different angle of polarization. Okay. So we have an isotropic film onto the surface, and then we change the angle of polarization of this second laser, and then we measure the response. And then what we get is that we get this kind of oscillatory response from this. Okay. So this indicates, so we have done for two different wavelengths, and this indicates that changing the response by the incident of electromagnetic wave, you can able to optimize the system in such a manner that the response with the interaction with any other analyte, that can be enhanced. Okay, that can be improved by simply changing the polarization angle of the second laser. So this gives us this gives us an idea that you can able to tune the sensitivity of the SPR instrument by using a second laser with this kind of layer structure. Now this SPR, as I told you that this surface plasmon resonance, this is the game of the change in refractive index. Okay, and since we are working on this liquid crystal molecule, which are essentially formed by anisotropic molecule, if you can take, if you can form the two-dimensional film of this anisotropic molecule onto the surface, then we are going to have, an anisotropy in refractive index in different direction. Okay, so what I mean, let me just tell you. So now onward, I am going to talk on a single layer of molecule onto the surface of a device. So that is why it's ultra thin film is coming over here. This ultra thin film is because of the single layer of molecule. And if the molecule is anisotropic in nature, then that anisotropy is going to reflect in the refractive index of the film. So we have, this view graph I told you, we have air-water interface. We form the monolayer, okay, a single layer of molecule which is anchored very nicely to the surface. We are having different kind of phases. I'll go a little fast over here because of the time, So we can form a monolayer, a stable monolayer at the air-water interface with amphiphilic molecule. Amphiphilic molecule has having two parts, hydrophilic part and the hydrophobic part. So this hydrophilic part will anchor to the water. This will stay away from the water. And if the balance is there, we get a monolayer, a stable monolayer. Fine. We can use this instrument for, forming the monolayer. And so if this is a two-dimensional, so this can be treated as a two-dimensional system. So you can able to perform measure the surface pressure area isotherm or the thermodynamics related to this two-dimensional system. You can observe the different phases of this two-dimensional system. Okay, so surface pressure and area per molecule. This is similar to that of the PV diagram in case of during the school level. We have heard that you take the inert gas into a container and compress isothermally. So this is also isothermal. Okay, isothermally. Then what we see the PV diagram, and if it is a first order transition, then we see that there is a gas phase, there is a liquid phase, a plateau region with the coexistence of these two phases, first order phase transition. Here also it's the same thing. We are having the molecule which is restricted to move on the two-dimensional surface. Okay, then if the density is less, then gas phase, density is high, liquid-like phase, liquid condensed phase, solid phase, and then the collapse. Same thing. So you change the temperature and you can able to measure all sorts of thermodynamics like the critical temperature and all sorts of related thermodynamics you can able to measure for such kind of system. So I'll go a little fast here. So these are the material which can be used for the measurement and which people are using for extensively for making the two-dimensional film and then doing the further studies. You can get these references from this book. This we have written here. You can follow those things if you wish. Now, this film on the surface of water, this can be transferred in a layer by layer assembly through what is known as the Langmuir-Blodgett technique. So you take a substrate and dip it vertically down and take it up in a very controlled manner. Every stroke, maybe you can able to deposit, the layer of molecule onto the substrate. So a very disciplined way, a very systematic way of creating, ultra thin film onto the surface of a device, and that device can be used for various applications, sensing application or any other, any other kind of application. So we have a control over the thickness, we have a control over the density, we have the control over the orientation, the state of the molecule. Another way to form a single layer ultra thin film is that self-assembled monolayer. You disperse the molecule into the medium, you put your substrate, through self-assembly molecule will arrange onto the, deposit onto the surface of substrate, and if you leave it for some time, then it may give you a very well ordered oriented molecule as a single layer of self-assembled monolayer. Now, why I'm talking about this? I told you that we want to make the SPR chip surface SPR chip specific to attract one particular analyte. So if I want to make some kind of cancer detection, so I know what is the biomarker for that. I choose a molecule in such a manner that the biomarker is hanging over here. The terminal end will be the biomarker for some cancer analyte. Okay. So what I have done is that I have made the surface gold chip, which is specific to the biocancer, specific to some particular cancer or whatever it is. Okay. So these two techniques, it ensures that we can able to tailor the functionality of the surface, and that is what we want for when we are talking about the sensing. Okay. So now here, since we are talking about the optical anisotropy, what we have done is that we have taken a rod shaped molecule, a simple fatty acid, and then we deposited a single layer of fatty acid. So what we have a layer of molecule which is a single layer of molecule which is inclined at one particular angle. Okay, at one particular angle with respect to the surface normal. So if you see the projection of this molecule onto the surface, then you will be having a different refractive index in the x direction, in the orthogonal direction. Okay, so what we have done is that we have performed the measurement, SPR measurement in the orthogonal direction, parallel and perpendicular, and we got the shift, the value of this shift is different. So this difference in shift is arising because of the tilt of the molecule onto the surface, and using our classical Fresnel relation, we calculated the change in the refractive index. Okay, so ultra thin film of rod shaped molecule which is tilted at 11 degree with respect to the surface normal, it gives some value of the change in the refractive index. Fine. So this is not the birefringence. Birefringence we have done later on. Okay, but there is so the medium is anisotropic, and we get the different refractive index in different directions. Next, what we have done is that we have taken another rod shaped molecule, similar rod shaped molecule, but the tilt is different. The tilt is 30 degree with respect to the surface normal. So 30 degree, if the molecule is oriented, then we are having the different amount of projection onto the plane, and hence the different higher value of the change in the refractive index when measured in both the direction, orthogonal direction, 1.38 mm. Okay. Next, what we have done is that we have taken rod shape, carbon nanotube. So we took the carbon nanotube and we try to align them in one particular direction. So you can see that the direction of this carbon nanotube along one particular direction, and then we perform the measurement in the orthogonal direction. So we can imagine that rods are spread, and we are performing the measurement, optical measurement in orthogonal direction. Then what we have observed is the following. So we can see that in one case it is behaving like a metal. So this is the refractive index in the imagined part is quite high, and another case it is behaving like any other dielectric. Okay, so the same carbon nanotube, if you perform the SPR measurement in two orthogonal directions, in one direction where the carbon nanotube is aligned, it is behaving like a metal, another it is behaving like normal dielectric. Fine. So now in plane birefringence, so refractive index measured in the easy axis and the orthogonal to it, the difference of this refractive index, it is going to give us the measure of birefringence. So this is what I was telling. We have a rod shaped molecule, tilted molecule, so we have a projection. So if you measure the refractive index using SPR along the Z direction and along the Y direction, we will get the different values. And we have done a simulation of this. We have performed the experiment also this, and this is the calibration curve that we have we have plotted. We have published this also. So this is the change in refractive. This is a change in shift in the resonance angle. this is the thickness of the film, and this is the bireferences, value of the bireferences. So if you know the thickness, we measure through SPR the delta theta, we can able to estimate what is the bireference of this, of that particular film using this calibration curve. Okay, so this SPR can also be used for optical filter, and so we can see that this is the prism, light is falling like this, and we have put the liquid crystal molecule here in the nematic phase, and you apply the electric field. So nematic phase meaning you apply the electric field, you are changing the orientation of the molecule. So if you can able to change the orientation of the molecule, which means that you are changing the refractive index at the interface, okay, which is voltage dependent. Okay, so now voltage dependent changing the refractive index. If you plot the reflectivity, we can see that the dip at different voltage. Fine. So if you use a white light over here, then we can see that this is missing in the spectrum, which means that it can be used for filter application, optical filter application. Fine. So I think I'm done with this, and in a very rapid mode, probably I try to convey many things. Let me tell you about my research area. So liquid crystal, I work in the field of liquid crystal, nanomaterial, nanocomposite. I do little bit of instrumentation also. We have built this SPR. We are going to build this SPR imaging and ultra thin film bulk. This is my group, my faculty colleague Manjula Devi, and these are the list of students. Some of them graduated, some of them are pursuing their PhD work. These are some of the references that I have used, shown in my slides. And I'd like to thank Kapapatti and the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present my work, and DST India for funding my students and collaborators. And thank you all for your kind attention.